So, hi, this is the solution set for the Regents packet, Regents prep with the Mathster equations. So, let's see how we go about it, okay? I'll state a different number of methods just to ensure that you guys get it. So, you can pause the video, see the solution, rewind, check it again, etc. etc. So, let's see how it goes. This is the first of its series, so let's see how it goes. Feedback would be appreciated. Thank you. So let's read a few things and then let's apply it. All right, let's test the question. So we are doing the Regents packet on equations. So question 1.
So solve this question.
Which value of x satisfies the equation 7 third?
So do the division part
X
first.
plus 9 is equal to 20.
0.025
You've been given 4 choices.
plus
So 4 choices are 8.25, 8.89,
9
19.25,
Then you put in
and 4.
what is for the exponent because they're
Now
saying
there are various ways to do this, right? So these are our answer choices that we are looking for. Now you could use the distributive method
You may
to
use the
start off
Mathster if
with,
it's involved, it's equal.
or you could use SADMAP. It's up to you. You can convert the fractions to decimals. You could just divide. So if I use SADMAP. Now, do we see a subtraction? We don't see a subtraction anywhere. So we'll skip that part, right? Okay, do we see an addition? We do see an addition, but it's part of the parentheses. So that should be done at the end. So this addition and parentheses will be done at the end. Do we see a division? We do see a division, so you can do it either with the division method or with the multiplication method. I'm going to go ahead and do it with the multiplication method. Okay, so what's the opposite of multiply? Divide, right? So now I've got this equation. And we are always working on opposites. Once we determine what the arithmetical operation is, we'll do the opposite. So if I divide 7/3 on both sides, you can use your calculator. This will cancel off, right? Now if this cancels off, we get this step. So we had 7/3 x plus 9 over 28 is equal to 20 over 7/3. And then this is also over a 7/3. So this was the last step I wrote. So these two cancel off. So you get x plus 9 over 28. And then when you solve this, we get 67. Right? Now again we look at SADMAP. Now what do we have? We have a couple of divisions, but we have this addition. What's the opposite of the addition? Subtraction. So let's subtract 9/28 on both sides. This cancels. So I'm left with an x. And then we can solve this part. 60 over 7 minus 9 over 28. Right? Now what does that simplify as? It simplifies as 8/1/4 or 8.25. Now if we look at our answer choices, that is answer number 1. Okay, so that's how we do the first question. Okay, second question. They say John has 4 more nickels than dimes. Now, if you remember, if you recall more than, what does more than represent? It represents addition, right? So here they're saying that if you have X dimes, you have 4 more than that. So if you had 10 dimes, you have 14 dimes. If you had 20 dimes, you have 24. Sorry, if you have 10 dimes, you have 14 nickels. If there are 20 dimes, there are 24 nickels. So if there are X dimes, then there are X plus 4 nickels. Now if you determine the value of the dimes in dollars, each dime is 10 cents, which is $0.10. So if I have X dimes, that would be 0.10X, right? And then for the nickels, it would be 0.05, and I have X plus 4 nickels. And they've said the total is $1.25. Therefore, I would choose anything that looks like this. So probably they have written it in this form, where they put the nickels before the dimes. So this should be a solution, which will be answer choice 2. They want it for 20 years. So solve it for 20 years. Here. You can have this.
So 1.025 times 20.
To the exponent 20.
Oh.
Here. So where is this one, right? So you go to the year, it's Jan 2017, so keep. Okay. Let's try question 3. Now question 3 is something that you may have done in the past. At some point in time, you must have bought a cell phone package and made decisions based on it. So this cell phone company, they're saying that a cell phone company charges $60 a month. So $60 a month. And then they're giving you 1 GB of data for this. Okay, so the first sentence says a cell phone company charges $60 a month for up to 1 gigabyte of data. The cost of additional data. So let's look at additional data. Is equal 0.05 per MB. If D represents the the number of additional megabytes used, and C represents the total charges at the end of the month, which linear equation can be used to determine a user's monthly bill? So what is his monthly bill made up of? His monthly bill is a combination, right? So it's the fixed cost of $60 for 1 GB, and it's also the additional data. So once he exceeds 1 GB, he'll start using the additional data, which is $0.5 per MB. Okay, let's even put a per over here. So we are all set with that part. So per MB. So these are our total costs that add up to the monthly bill. So what do you think would be the total charges after you're done with the 1 GB of data, and then you also got D additional MBs? So each MB will increase your cost by 5 cents. So if there are D MBs, your cost would be 0.05 D, right? And 60 is your initial charge. So your total would be C. Yeah.
This would be the new clinical office.
So we would choose
We're gonna transition
answer 4. Right? So anything that looks like this. An initial cost plus every cost that you're adding to your to the entire bill. Right? So more data that you use will end up in more amount for your bill.
That
All right. So that was question 3. Let's look at question 4. So what do we have over here? Let's see. So it's the August 2014. Question 1. A satellite television company charges a one-time installation fee and a monthly service charge. So so the cost is built of two things. So there's the installation fee and monthly charges. Right? So two aspects are there. The total cost is modeled by the function y is equal to 40 plus 90x. Which statement represents the meaning of each part of the function? So this is similar to the previous question that we did. Remember, this was representing the total cost in the previous case, and this is representing the fixed cost. So what is the fixed cost? The monthly charges or the installation fee? The installation fee is probably a one-time charge, right? One-time charge. And this monthly charge is the variable. This varies every month. If you use more data or you watch more TV, then your monthly charge will be larger than the one-time charge, right? So the 40 will be the fixed cost, which will be your installation cost. And X represents the number of months, right? And 90 will be the service charges per month. So look for these things. Total cost as Y, installation cost as 40, 90 as service charges, and X as months. So anything that displays this choice or this option. X is months, Y is total cost, 40 is the installation fee, and 90 is the service charges per month. So that would be answer choice 2. Alright, let's try question 2. Let's try question 2. So Sam and Jeremy, there are two people, and they have ages that are consecutive odd integers. Consecutive. Consecutive means one after the other, right? One after another. So this is one important aspect. And odd integers, what are integers and odd? Two terms that we use frequently. What is an integer? What is an integer? So an integer would be something like -5, -3, -1, 1, 3, 5. All of these are integers. And they are odd. Right? Can an age be a negative? Age can never be negative. So a solution set will be somewhere in this end. 1, 3, 5, 7. and so on and so forth, right? So that's our solution set. 1, 3, 5, 7, and so on. So let's list a few things and then we'll try to work from there. So if my odd numbers are 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, from one odd number to another one, from one odd number to another one, I've got to add 2 each time. Right? So I add a 2 every time. What if this is x? Then this is x plus 2. And then this is x plus 4. And then it's x plus 6. Right? So what if in this case they're saying that the Jeremy's age is J. Jeremy's age is equal to J. So what is Sam's age then? They're consecutive. So Sam's age would be J plus 2. Now they've used a keyword, product. Product of ages is another keyword, 783. So if I write the product of the ages, I should get J plus 2 is 783. Then we can use the distributive property and multiply, so we get J squared plus 2J is equal to 783. Let's look for this choice. Which one will this be? Answer choice 3. Answer choice 3. Okay. Alright, next question. Now let's try question 3. So we've got an equation like this. Again, there are various ways to do all these questions. It's up to you. What is the value of x in the equation? X minus 2 divided by 3 plus 1/6 is equal to 5/6. Okay. Alright, so let's get started. There are 4 answer choices. Let's list them over here. So the first choice is 4, then the next one is 6, and then 8, and then 11. Right? So we've got our 4 choices. Now let's see which ones apply. Either we can plug it in, it's up to you. Whatever method you want to use, you may use it. So I'm going to do one step and see how it works. Okay? So I'm going to use SADMAT on this question. So we've got a subtraction, but it's hidden in this part. It's like part of the division aspect or the fraction. So therefore we will work on this at the end. We've got an addition right here, right? This addition. So what's the opposite of addition? Subtraction. So let's subtract 1/6 on either side. This cancels out. So now I'm left with this fraction, which is x minus 2 over 3. And I'm left with this, 5 over 6 minus 1/6. Remember one thing, whenever you have the same denominator, you can just subtract these two guys directly or even add them. This is only applicable to addition and subtraction of fractions. Okay? So addition and subtraction of fractions. So if I subtract these two, what's 5 minus 1? It's 4. So this is what I end up getting. Okay. Then we see this division thing, which is right here. What's the opposite of division? We have multiplication. So let's do the opposite of division. So we get multiply. So let's multiply both sides by 3. This and this cancels. We have x minus 2. And we've got 4, 6 times 3. The 3 and the 6 can cancel 2 times, and then this can go 2 times. So this is finally 2. Let's look at the last step. Now we've got the subtraction part, right? You see the subtraction. So what's the opposite of subtraction? Addition. So let's add 2 to both sides. This cancels, we get x is equal to 4. So let's see our answer choice. Answer choice is 4. Sorry about that. How do I get rid of it? Okay, there we are. That's our solution. X is equal to 4. Which is right here. Answer 1 is our solution. Oh, I'm on the wrong pen. Answer 1 is our solution. So, we've got this situation, Jan 2015. Let's find a pen. Jan 2015. And we are working on question 1. So they say which equation has the same solution as this trinomial they've given you. So 3 terms, 1, 2, 3. It's called a trinomial. Remember this word, there will be a number of questions related to trinomials. Okay, so the answer choices are right here. So they've given us 4 choices as always. And our answer choices are listed. So the first one is x plus 3 whole squared is equal to 2. The second one is x minus 3 whole squared is equal to 2. And then x minus 3 squared is equal to 16. And x plus 3 whole squared is equal to 16. Now there are different ways to do it. I'll show you 2 ways to solve. And then we'll take it from there. Okay? So the first one, method 1, let's call it M1. And we'll have an M2. So for M1, I'm just going to expand these, right? So let's take our answer choices and see which ones equal this expression. So this is what we are trying to find out. So let's expand and see what it works out to be, okay? Now we remember, like from previous lessons, we know that if I multiply a and a, I get a squared. If I multiply 5 and 5, I get 5 squared, right? So x plus 3 whole squared, should it be x plus 3 and x plus 3? And there are also perfect square forms that we can use directly to solve this. So it's up to you. There are some assignments which include this concept or this idea. So you could use it directly, or you could use this FOIL method. So if I write this out, I'll get x plus 3 and x plus 3 is equal to 2. And then I can utilize FOIL. So first, outer, inner, and then my last, right? So I've got FOIL. So if I multiply x by x, I'll get x squared. If I multiply x by 3, I get 3x. And then 3 times x is again 3x. And then 3 times 3 is 9 is equal to 2. So here I've got x squared plus 6x plus 9 is equal to 2. But if we look at our real equation, our original equation, we want a 0 on this side. So let's subtract 2 on both ends. So we'll end up getting x squared plus 6x plus 7 is equal to 0. Right? So we want a plus 7. Sorry, we wanted a negative 7. We are getting a plus 7. Look at this part. This is the only thing that's different. Right? So this choice doesn't work. So answer number 1 is not working for us. Right? But we got half of the question correct. We got the x squared part, we got the 6x part. So we know that this thing should be true, this part. So if I have x plus 3 in my parentheses and the square, that should work, right? So look at answer choice 4. This one should work. The other ones have the negative 3, so that wouldn't work, right? So our answer is 4. We'll get the negative, when we expand we'll get 9, but we'll have 16 on this side for answer choice 4, right? So the only difference between answer choice 1 and 4 is the 2 and the 16. So if I had a 16 over here, I know I can, if I change this to 16, right, which is answer choice 4. So let's remove all this, right? So this part is the same for answer choice 4 and 1. The only difference is that we have this as 16. So let's put a 16 here, right? Let's subtract 16. Let's subtract 16. So are we getting our answer? There you go. So it's answer choice 4. The other method is the perfect square method. And the perfect square method works this way. There's a process that you've got to follow. So what we'll do is we'll take this 7 to the other side. So let's move it to the other side. So this cancels. We've got x squared plus 6x is equal to 7. And then we'll try to make this expression into a perfect square. Now this is the expression we are looking for, right? We want to make this a perfect square. So what we'll do is we will divide the 6x, the 6 part, by 2. So if I divide 6 by 2, I get 3. And then we'll square that value. So 3 squared. So 6 divided by 2. 6 divided by 2 and then the square of that. So that's 3 squared. This is the value. I'm going to add this to both sides. So this is what I'm going to end up getting. X squared plus 6x plus 3 squared and 7 plus 3 squared. Right? Now after I get it in this form, I'll just pick the x. I'll pick the sign over here. If it's a positive, I'll put a positive. If it's a negative, I'll put a negative. Then I'll put a 3 and I'll bracket this as a square, which you'll see in all the 4 choices. Look at all the 4 choices. A perfect square will always have a parenthesis and a square. Okay? And on this side we get 7 plus 9. What is 7 plus 9? It's 16. Therefore our solution is answer choice 4, which matches with this. Alright, so yeah, 2 different methods. You can utilize anything. It's just one representation versus another one. Okay, let's try the next question, which is talking about 2 gardeners. So 2 gardeners. This is question 2 of Jan 2015. So 2 gardeners, A and B. Now A is 3 feet tall, and it's growing at 15 inches per year. And B's height, so height, let's put height for both. We can put height A and height B. This one is 4 feet tall plus 10 inches per year. Right? Now, we notice one thing over here. There's an inconsistency. There's feet and inches. Feet and inches. Let's make them consistent. We know that 1 foot is equal to 12 inches. Okay? So 3 feet will be 36 inches. Which is also 1 yard if you have ever used yards. And 4 feet would be 48 inches. Okay? So if we put it in terms of inches, this will become 36 plus 15. Do we know the number of years? We don't know the number of years, so let's call it y, right? This is the height of A. Similarly, the height of B will be 48 plus 10y. We don't know y. But they're asking us, the question is, when do these two heights work out to be the same, right? So let's equate them. So let's equate HA and HB when they are the same height. So is this what I get? I'm plugging in this over here and this value over here. Now I've got an equation. I need to find out y, right? So there are various ways. Let's subtract 10y from both sides. And let's subtract 36 from both sides. So this cancels, this cancels. What's 15y minus 10y? That is 5y, right? And then what's 48 minus 36? That's 12. Now we see a multiplication. You remember SADMAP? So we see multiplication. What's the opposite of multiply? Divide. Right? So divide 5 on both sides. So you end up getting y is equal to 12/5 or 2.5. 2.4 years. Let's erase that and put a 4. 2.4 years is our answer. There you go. So another question done. Alright, so let's try the next one. So now in this question, they're saying that New Clarendon Park is undergoing renovations to its gardens. One garden that was originally a square, so it was initially a square. So let's draw a square and call it X, right? It's being adjusted so that one side is doubled its length. So one side becomes 2 times as long. So if this were X, it ended up becoming 2X. While the other is decreased by 3 meters. So remember that thing? Increase is add, decrease is subtract. So how much is it getting decreased by? 3. So X minus 3. Now they're saying the new rectangular area, this area, let's call it A2. This is 25% more than the original square garden, which is A1, right? 25% of what? Of A1. So it's a greater area, and this is A1. Now for the square, the area is given by x squared. So we know this area. For A2, our area is, it's a rectangle, so it's length times width, which would be 2x times x minus 3. But we also know that this is equal to 25% of A1 plus A1. Now let's plug in A1. A1 is x squared, right? We already know that. So we know A1 is x squared. Plug in that A1 x squared in this part. So let's look at this equation. So we get, let's distribute. we get 2x squared minus 6x is equal to 0.25. A1 is x squared, so plug in is x squared plus x squared. Now we are getting a quadratic form. So this becomes 1.25x squared on this side. And this is 2x squared minus 6x. Right? Now we want to solve, obviously. So let's subtract 1.25x squared from both sides. So this cancels, this becomes a 0. This becomes 0.75x squared minus 6x. Right? We can take x common. Right? X can be taken common from the entire process or the entire equation. So let's take it common. So we'll get 0.75x minus 6. Now we are saying that these two guys are multiplying to give you 0, right? So one of them has to be 0. One or either. Or even both sometimes, right? 0 times 0 is 0. So x can be 0 or 0.75x minus 6 can be 0, right? Now let's solve this. Add 6, add 6. This becomes 0.75x is equal to 6. Then this is multiplying, so let's divide 0.75 on either side. So you get x as 8 meters. Now x cannot be 0 because of the fact that a length cannot be 0, so we'll reject this value. Right? So x is 8 meters. Then they are saying that determine the area of the new rectangular garden. We already know the new rectangular garden is 2x squared minus 6x, right? So we want A2. So let's plug in x as 8. We know x is 8. So let's plug in x as 8 in both these parts. So we'll get 2 times 8 squared minus 6 times 8. 8 squared is 64 and 6 times 8 is 48. So what's 128 minus 48? That's 80 meters squared. So that's our second answer. All right. Next question. So June 2015. So our next question is June 2015, question 1. So it says the cost of airing a commercial on television is modeled by the function Cn is equal to 110n plus 900. And they've stated that n is the number of times the commercial is aired. So this piece of information is given. So they're asking based on this model which statement is true. So we know that Cn is the total cost. You may see this equation to be something that you've done in the past, so something that you've already experienced or solved. So C is the total cost, N is the number of times the commercial is aired, and 900 is the production cost for the commercial. Right? So before you even air the commercial, you're paying $900. So that's a fixed cost. So to air the commercial, you've got to pay $900, right? To make it, to produce it. And then the 110 is the cost for you to pay the TV channel. So 110 is cost for TV channel. So each time you air the commercial, they'll charge you $110, right? So that's your 110, and the 900 part is your production cost. So look for a choice that explains or defines or describes the situation. So 900 is production cost and 110 is cost you pay the TV channel. Okay, so which choice would that be? Answer choice 3. Alright, next question. Now they're saying Moore's farm sold a total of 160 pounds of apples and peaches. So you've got apples, you've got peaches. And the total means sum of, right? Sum of. So if I add apples and peaches, I get 165. Now I can write an equation for this. So if I wrote A plus P is equal to 165, I get my first equation. Now they're saying that the cost of the apples is $175 per pound, right? LB is the short for pound. And the cost of peaches is $2.50 per pound. So we know that she's selling A apples, sold A apples, and sold P peaches, right? So how much money is she making with the apples? If each one is 1.5 pounds, she's going to make 1.75 A by selling the apples. And she'll make 2.5 times P by selling the peaches. And all of this is equal to 337.5. So there are various ways again to solve this. But what I'll do is, if I make A the subject in this equation, right, by subtracting P on both sides. So I would have A plus P minus P, yeah? And 165 minus P. So the P's will cancel. So what is A? It's 165 minus P, which I can take from right here, this value, and plug it in this A. So let's plug in the value. So we have 175 times 165 minus P plus 250P is equal to 337.5. Right? Then you distribute. So 175 times 165 is 288.75, and then you multiply this, you get 175P plus 250P is equal to 337.5. Then we simplify this, so we'll get 0.75p. And at this same moment, we can even start working by getting rid of this thing, right? By subtracting it. Okay, so our equation right now is this. Let's subtract 288.75. So what do we get? 0.75p. This cancels. 337.5 minus 288.75 is 48.75. And then we want to get rid of the 0.75, so we divide 0.75 on both sides. So what's P? 65. Answer A. Or, sorry, answer 3. That's my mistake. It should have been answer 3. Okay, so let's remove this. Okay, answer number 3 is our solution. P is 65. Cool. All right, so June 2015, question 3. What are the zeros of an equation? So basically the zeros of an equation are where either y is 0, fx is 0, or where the graph intersects or cuts the x-axis. Okay, some important pieces of information that you need to know. So whenever they ask you for this question, hey, find the zeros, this is what we are working on. So either we take y 0 or we take fx is 0 or we intersect the graph at the x-axis. So now our question is fx is equal to x squared minus 13x minus 30, right? Now as I stated, we need to make this part 0. So let's make this 0. So now do we have a quadratic equation? We got a quadratic equation. There are 4 ways to solve a quad equation. Method 1, make a box. Method 2, use formula. That would be at the back of your Regents in the formula list. 3, draw a graph. 4, make perfect square. Okay, so we'll employ any one of these methods. Let's use the box, it's easy in this case. So put in a box. X squared is right here, x and x, negative 30. So what are our factors for negative 30? So we can have, obviously for 30 we can have 1 and 30, we can have 2 and 15, we can have 3 and 10, right? We can have 5 and 6, and then it just repeats backwards. So if I use 15 and 2, because I'm interested in finding 13, I want 13. So 15 and 2 and 10 and 3 will give me my 13. So let's try 15 and 2. Let's start with this, and then if we don't get it, we'll use 3 and 10. We want negative 13. So I'm going to make 15 negative and 2 positive. So when I plug in values, 2 times x is 2x, negative 15 times x is negative 15x. Does this solve to negative 13? It does. So we are done, right? So we found the factors. So now we'll write this part as it is, x plus 2, and then we'll write this part as it is, x minus 15, and equate to 0. Now again, whenever we get a question like this, we take each parenthesis and equate it to 0. As long as this side is 0, then we can use this method. So x plus 2 is equal to 0 and x minus 15 is equal to 0. So I'll add 15, add 15. This cancels, I get x is 15. That's one solution. And subtract 2, this cancels, x is negative 2. This is our other solution. So select the choice which. So we are working on June 2015, question 4. June 2015, question 4. So this question is talking about a landscaper, and they've got a rectangular flower bed, but they've given us some pieces of information. So if this is the length, let's say if this is x, if this is our width, they've given us this, that the width is half of the length. Now let's translate this. is always equal, so width is half of represents multiply. So this is our equation. Now we know that the width is equal to half of the length, and the length is x. So this value is half x. And they've given us the area as 34 feet square, right? So let's solve this. The area of any rectangle is the length times the width. The length is x, so let's plug that in. And the width is half x, let's plug that in. And all of this is equal to 34, so we'll put that on this end. So 34 is equal to half. We'll distribute the x in, so we'll get half x squared. And then we'll employ SADMAP. So what all operations do we see? We see an exponent and we see multiplication. So the multiplication part occurs first. So what's the opposite of multiply? Or we can also look at it as divide. So whatever operation we use, however we look at it, the 2 is either divided or it's multiplied. So the opposite of division is multiply. So let's multiply both sides by 2. So this cancels. So we get 68 is equal to x squared. And then we see this exponent. It's a square. So what's the opposite of a square? Square root. Right? So let's take the square root on both sides. So we normally put a plus minus, but because we are talking about lengths, we do not need the negative, right? So root 68 solves to 8.2 feet. But the question is asking you for the width, and we know the width is half of x. So let's solve for half of 8.2, which becomes 4.1 feet. This is our answer. All right, so June 20. All right, so we've got June 2015, question 5. So it's about the weekly earnings of an employee. And there are two cases. One is when you're working between 0 and 40 hours, and when you're working more than 40 hours. So when you're working between 0 and 40, your formula is 10 times x, where x is the number of hours worked. And when you're working more than 40 hours, your formula is 15 times x minus 40 plus 400. Right? So they're saying that you want to find the difference. Difference means subtraction. Right? They're saying that there is an earning rate for 52 hours and for 38 hours. So salary for 52 hours minus salary for 30 hours. Right? Now for the 52 hours, we'll use this formula. This is for 52 hours. And for the 30 hours, we'll use this formula. So 52 hours would be 15, x is 52, right? So let's plug in 52 plus 400. So I'm done with that, with this formula, right? And then I subtract 10x, but salary for 38 hours, sorry. Let's change this to 38. 38 times 38. Now if we solve this, we end up getting 15 and 12 plus 400 minus 380, which gives us, let's see what it gives us. So 15 times 12 is 180 plus 400 minus 380. If we solve this entire thing, we get a $200 difference. That's our first answer. So if the person works 52 hours versus 38 hours, the difference in salary is $200. Okay, then the next question, they're asking you for the second part. I'm going to erase this so that we can we get some space to work with. So let's remove all this. But I'm going to keep the formula because I'm going to utilize those, right? So if I remove all this, okay, so let's do the second part. Now they're saying that the person is earning $445. Now if the person works the entire 40 hours, now we know the pay rate is $10, right? $10 per hour. 10 per hour. So we know this information, that it's $10 per hour, right? So for 40 hours, he'll get 400. That's the maximum. Now we have 45, so we know that he is working more than 40 hours, right? So we'll use this formula, right? So let's plug that in. Let's use that. All right, we are working on August 2015, question 1. So this is a question about the apps that Alicia has made for smartphones. So there are two different companies that are giving her an offer. So the first company is offering 10,000 in the first month, and it's increasing it by 5,000 every month. So she's getting 15,000, then 20,000, then 25,000, and so on and so forth, right? So if we keep writing, we'll get to 25,000, 30,000, and then 35,000, 40,000, 45,000, So these are the amounts that she's being offered by plan or company A. One thing that we know is that the maximum number on the answer choices is 9. So instead of working and extensively, let's work till month number 9. And I can make a listing of the month numbers on top. So month 1, month 2, month 3, month 4, month 5, and then month 6, month 7, month 8, month 9. Now this is the listing for company A. Now let's work with company B. So what's happening with company B, right? So we end up getting 500 for company B, and then 1000, and then it's doubling every time. So 2000, 4000, 8000, 16,000 would be next, right? And then 32,000, 64,000, and then 128,000. Now they're asking us, when does the amount offered by B become larger than A? So when is it the first time that it's larger? So look at the choice for month 8, the 8th month. Is this where the first time the amount of B becomes larger than A? Right? So therefore we'll select answer choice that matches month 8, which would be answer choice 3. So we are working with August 2015 question 2. So there's this person Jackson who's planning to do some exercises, right? And they've given us the first day he does 30 minutes of exercise, and each day he increases it by 2. So let's make a table, right? So it goes to 34, 36, 38. And then if we continue first day 6, it goes to 40, right? And each time it's adding up by 2, right? Adding by 2. So what type of sequence do we see over here? What type of sequence do we see? Is it an arithmetic sequence? So that's our sequence. We know it's arithmetic, right? And at the back of the Regents exam, you have the different formula that are listed, right? Formulae that are listed. We know the first term is 30. We know the common difference is 2. So we can use that formula from the back and plug in some values. So we get 30 plus n minus 1 times 2, right? And then we can simplify, we can distribute. We can either leave our answer over here, or if we keep simplifying, we get 30 plus and distribute the 2n, we'll get 2n minus 2. And then we can simplify 30 minus 2 as 28 plus 2n. So this is our second expression. This is the same as the first one, right? So these two are acceptable. Any one of these forms will be what you want to give as your answer. So this is the first part. Then they ask us to solve for T6. So n is 6. Let's plug in 6 wherever we see n, right? So I'll use the second formula to work it. 28 plus 2n, and let's put 6 as n. So we get 2 times 6, right? 2 times 6 is 12. 28 plus 12 is 40 minutes of exercise on day 6. Which also works from the table above. Like if you compare the table above, you get 40 minutes for day 6. And the Regents is very munificent and generous, so they will give you points even if you short the table. So 40 minutes is our solution. You could solve it, or you use the table and you get your solution. All right, so this question, we're doing Jan 2016. Question 1. So it's a cell phone plan, right? So the cell phone is charging you the base fee of $62. And then in addition to that, they're charging you $30 for every gigabyte beyond 2 GB. So if you used more than 2 GB of data, you would pay this extra cost of $30 for every GB, right? So let's look at our cost. So 62 is fixed. You've got to pay your 62. And then you pay $30 for everything beyond more than 2. Look at the last sentence. It says more than 2 GB, right? So we only pay the extra amount of money when G is bigger than 2. So let's look for this answer, which will be answer D, or number 4. All right, we are working with June 2016 question 1. So an aeroplane is leaving New York City to go to LA. And they've stated a few things. So they're saying that as it climbs, the plane gradually increases its speed until it reaches cruising altitude. So let's make use of that information. Cruising altitude, right? Cruising altitude is when the plane has constant speed. Like probably you've used cruise speed or cruise control in your car, right? Maybe your parents use it or whoever drives you around. So cruise control tries to maintain constant speed. So if you're driving at 60 miles per hour, the car will try to maintain 60 miles per hour throughout. But it can fluctuate sometimes based on the terrain and stuff like that. But 60 miles per hour, you want your car to maintain constant speed, right? So that's the idea, that's the plan. So the plane is trying to maintain constant speed. So we've been given some data. So at T32, the plane has covered 192 miles, right? And at T92 minutes, it's covered 762 miles. Now the difference between 32 and 62 is 60 minutes, so that's a 1 hour time duration. And your distance covered between the two things is 570 miles, right? So speed is equal to distance over time. We've been using this formula for quite some time, and let's plug in a few things. So distance divided by time. So distance is 570 miles, time is 60 minutes. So let's plug those in. So we get 9.5 miles per minute. Okay, that's our first value for the speed. That's our first answer. Now let's look at the second part. So it says equation. You want an equation. So speed is equal to distance divided by time. Let's plug in those things, right? So what all do we know? We know that the speed is y and the distance over x. So if we multiply x on both sides, the x's cancel. So the distance becomes xy, right? But I think I'm doing this incorrectly. So let's fix it. All right. So let's erase a few things, because we already know the speed is 9.5, right? So let's plug in, let's fix this question. So the distance they've given to you is y. So let's put in y for the distance, and speed is 9.5. So 9.5 for speed, distance is y. Multiply x's, those cancel off. So we end up getting y is equal to 9.5x. Right, so this is our equation. This is the second part. Let's do the third part. Now they're saying that the plane is flying for 2 hours, which is 120 minutes. Right, 2 times 60 is 120 minutes. So we can plug the 120 in as x and plug it in the formula we just found out. Y is equal to 9.5 times 120, right? And we end up getting 1140 miles. This is the distance covered. Alright, so answer number 3 is done. Speed is 9.5, equation is 9.5x, and distance covered by the plane in 2 hours is 1140 miles. So in this question, August 2016, question 1, this is about a parking garage, and they're saying that it's charging you for different time intervals. For the first 2 hours, it charges you $350. Then for the third hour, the price goes up to $9, and the 4-hour time duration is $14.50, and 5-hour time duration is $20. Right? So we got this chart. Now we've got to look for an answer that matches or conveys this solution. Now we know from 3.5 to 9 it's going up by $5.50, and then from 9 to 14.5 it's again up by 5.5 each time. So that's how we get our first section, right? Now what we can do is, there are various ways. We can either run through the answer choices, or we can solve the answer choices, and wherever we get $5.50, we'll say, hey, that's where our solution is. So it depends how we want to work it. Okay? So let's see. There are, again, numerous ways to do it, right? So let's see. So answer choices are here. Now the first one is 9 plus 3x is equal to 20. Second one is 9 plus 3.5x is equal to 20. Third one is 2x plus 3.5 is equal to 14.5. And then the next one is 2x plus 9 is equal to 14.5. So let's plug in x as 5.5 in each part, each choice. So if we put it in the first one, right, 9 plus 3 times 5.5, is that equal to 20? It isn't, so we can get rid of it. Let's try it with the second one. So plug this in your calculator. 9 plus 3.5 times 5.5. What do you get? Do we get 20? If we get 20, we'll accept this answer, otherwise we'll reject it, right? What about the third one? Let's put it in the third case. So 2 times 5.5 plus 3.5. Are we getting 14.5? We get 14.5. So answer choice is 3. Okay, so now we have August 2016 question 2. And Kendall is buying cookies. So she buys X boxes of cookies. And sorry, guys, I'm spelling boxes with a K. So let's fix that, right? So whenever we make a mistake, let's make sure we fix it, right? Let's not just be like just avoid working, right? So X boxes, let's fix the spelling. Okay, each box has 12 cookies, so we got this, right? And now she's keeping 2 boxes for herself, and she's taking 60 cookies to work, right? So if she's taking 60 cookies to work, how many boxes are those? One box has 12 cookies. So 60 cookies would be 5 boxes. So if we know that she's got 5 boxes at work and 2 for herself, so she's got 7 boxes in total. So this question is similar to the previous one, and therefore we can either solve the equations or plug in x as 7, and whichever equation satisfies will be our solution. So it's up to you whichever method you want to employ, okay? So let's put in x as 7. So does it work? Where does it work, right? And we can solve this on our calculator, right? All these equations, we can plug them in and see which ones work. So when it works, we will utilize that, otherwise we'll reject that value. Okay? So where does it work? 2 times 7 minus 12, right? If we figure out everything, we see answer 3 is the only one that works. So that's our answer choice. All right. So we've got August 2016 question 3. And this is a question about this equation. 4ax plus 3 minus 3ax is equal to 25 plus 3a. And then we can distribute. And then simplify as we go along, right? So we would get 4ax plus 12 minus 3ax is equal to 25 plus 3a. And then we can look at the like terms. 4ax and 3ax are the like terms, so we subtract. So what do we get? 1ax plus 12 is equal to 25 plus 3a. And then we use SADMAP. And we can subtract, we see an addition, so we can subtract the 12 on both sides. That becomes 0, 12 minus 12. So we have 1ax is equal to 13 plus 3a. We want x. So let's divide the 1a on both sides. So that's our step. Then the 1a is cancelled and we get x is equal to 13 plus 3a divided by 1a. That's our answer. So we've got Jan 2017 question 1. And let's see, what is this? So a car is traveling from Albany to Buffalo. Maybe at some point you've made this journey. I've made it a couple of times. Maybe not Albany to Buffalo, but I've been to both cities. So we know distance is equal to 280 minus 59t. This is the information that's given to us, right? And from previous lessons, we know that speed is equal to distance divided by time, right? So we know some pieces of information. So let's utilize this, right? So if we look at it, we have distance is equal to speed times time, right? And if we look at our question, we are getting 59t. So t is the time factor. So 59 is representing the speed. Therefore, anything with stating speed of the car, which is answer 2, is our answer choice. So, Jan 2017 question 2. Faith wants to convert from Fahrenheit to degrees Celsius. So there's a formula that's given to us. If you are aware, there are two types of temperature scales that we use from Fahrenheit to Celsius. Fahrenheits are used in the US, and the rest of the world uses degrees Celsius. A lot of the countries in the world will be using Celsius or centigrades. And also in science, we end up using degrees Celsius. But there are also different temperature scales like the Kelvin and stuff like that, and we use those if needed. So it depends. So degrees Celsius would be more common in other parts of the world. So let's look at it. What we are trying to do is convert 68 degrees Fahrenheit to Celsius, right? That's our question. So this is a comfortable day in the United States, as you've experienced. So in place of F, wherever we see F, we'll plug in 68. So this is what we get, right? Now we can use PEMDAS and simplify 68 minus 32, which gives us 36. 36 divides by 9 and gives us 4. 5 times 4 gives us 20 degrees Celsius. So 68 degrees Fahrenheit is also 20 degrees Celsius, which is answer choice 1. Okay, so we'll work on Jan 2017, question 3. Right. So we've been told a few things, right? So Andy is trying to save money. Rather, he's trying to withdraw money. So every week he withdraws money, right? So at the end of week 1, he will have 310 minus 30, which will become 280. So let's make a table and see how it works out. So after week 1, the amount will be 280. After week 2, it will be 250. After week 3, it will be 220. after week 4, and so on, right? So it's decreasing by 30 every time. So minus 30 is our common difference. And if we plug in the first value where you're starting off, so after week 0, you would have $310. So if we plug that in, we'll have 310, right? So every time is decreasing by 30. We can use an arithmetic progression formula if we would like, right? And solve using that. Or we could test the answers, right? We can test the answers. So put in week 1, 2, 3, 4 and see if they work out. So let's start with any one of them. Let me start with it's decreasing, so there has to be a minus element. So let's start with answer choice 4. Right, so we've got, if I put 1, I get 280. If I put 2, I end up getting 250, which also works. If I put 3, I end up getting 220. So all of these are working, right? All of them are working in our data. So should we use answer choice 4? Therefore, we end up concluding that it's answer choice 4. All the answers are listed and they work out as needed, right? So that's our answer. Alright, so this question is about Sandy and how she uses a website to find out or download songs. So the first song is at constant $129, right? And then the remaining songs that she's downloading are each at $0.99. So if she buys 10 songs, the first song will be $129, right? And then the remaining songs are at 99 cents. So we have this information. Now what if we want to write it for S or any songs, X songs, right? Let's say X songs. So first song is at 129. How many songs are left? X minus 1, right? And that's the price for, she'll get charged at 99 cents for that X minus 1 songs. So if we want to find out the cost, it would be the 129 cost adding up to 0.99 times X minus 1. So that's our cost. Now we've got 52 songs in the second part. She is estimating that the cost is $52.77 for the 52 songs. Now we have to test if this is true or not. We have a formula, right? So we can use that formula and say, hey, if I put in X as 52, I get my cost as 1.29 plus 0.99 times 52 minus 1. And then I plug in everything and I get 51.78. So my cost is 51.78 and she's getting 52.77. So what should my answer be? Should be Sandy is wrong, right? Because she has to pay 51.78 for 52 songs. There we go. We got our answer. Alright, so this is June 2017 question 5. And we've got two people, Ian and Ken. Let's make the chart. So we've got Ian and Ken. So they both are borrowing money from their parents. So amount borrowed. $1,000, right? And Ken is 600, right? And now this guy, they're paying at a rate, right? So payback. This guy is paying $60 a month, right? And Ken is paying $20 a month. Now, if let's just test some values for Ian, and we'll conclude something with it, right? So if for the first month he pays 60. For the second month he'll pay 120. Third month he'll pay 180, right? That would be 180. Let's make it 180. 180. How are we getting these amounts? This is 60 times 1, 60 times 2, 60 times 3. So this is the amount he's paying back, payback. Right? Now what if this were X? What would it be? 60 times X? Right? So let's say if the payback is for X months. So this would be 60X. Similarly for Ken it would be 20X. So how much money do they owe now? So if they've paid a certain amount out of the $1,000, how much do they owe? Would it be 1,000 minus 60X and 600 minus 20X, right? So these are our first two expressions that we get. So the amount owed by Ian and by Ken. Now we know, or we are asked to write an equation where they owe the same money. So that means these two are equal, right? So let's equate them. 1,000 minus 60x is equal to 600 minus 20x. So this is one of our equations. So this is one solution, right? And then we are supposed to determine how many months is this value when they are equal, right? So let's subtract 600 from both sides. You can use SAD math. And let's add 60x to both sides. Oh, this should be 20x, right? From here, 20x. So this will cancel off. This will cancel off. What's 1,000 minus 600? 400. What's negative 20 plus 60? 40x. And then we can divide 40 on both sides. So we get 10 months. So at 10 months, everything's equal. Both of them, Ian and Ken, owe the same amount to their parents. Now the next part, Ian is making a claim, right? So Ian claims that his loan will be done in the next 6 months. After these 10 months. So 10 plus 6 is 16 months, right? So Ian is claiming that in 16 months his loan is done. How much does he owe his parents? He owes 1,000 minus 60x. So let's solve that. 1,000 minus 60 times 16. So we get 1,000 minus 960, which is still $40. So Ian's claim is false because he still owes his parents $40. Okay? Alright, this is a simple question. June 2017. They've given us the formula for the surface area is 2LW plus 2HW plus 2LH. And they're saying which one of the answer choices does not depend on H. So this is length, this is width, and this is height. So answer choice 1 is this entire thing. Answer choice 2 is 2LW. 3 is 2HW. 4 is 2LH. So let's plug in this formula right here. So what their question is, which answer choice does not have an H? That's the question. So wherever you don't see an H, that's our answer. We have an H, we have an H, we have an H, we have an H. Which one does not have an H? Answer choice 2. Right? So answer 2 is the one. Okay. Next question. So we have this equation 4x minus 7 is equal to 0.3 x plus 2 plus 2.11, right? And this is June 2017 question 2. Let's distribute, right? So we get 4x minus 28, 0.3x plus 0.6 plus 2.11. We see like terms, let's add them. 4x minus 28, 0.3x plus 2.71, right? Then use SADMAP to solve things. Subtract 0.3x on both sides, right? And we can even add 28 to both sides. So this cancels, this cancels. So here we have 3.7x and we have 30.71, and now these guys are multiplying, right? So we can divide. We're just using SADMAP every time. Whenever you see an equation, just look for this and do the opposite. So we end up getting x as 8.3. Answer choice 1. Alright, so we have August 2017, question 1. And we've been given an equation. Now, we've seen a couple of questions like this. So this thing's always a fixed cost, right? Remember that. And this is our variable. So our variable is our time. The more time the plumber spends, the more the money he'll end up making. So variable is time. And what is the rate? Rate is 125 per hour. And this is the total charge or total cost, however you want to define it. Right? So it's a plumber, he'll charge money. So let's look for these things. Now look at answer choice 1. House call costs 95. So every time you call, you'll be charged the $95, right? Answer choice 2. 125 per hour. That's right here, right? And 3 is the number of hours. T is the number of hours. So which ones apply? All three. All three are part of the answer choice. So, answer 4. Boom. All three are part of it. Alright, so we are doing August 2017 question 2, right? So Connor is trying to burn 250 calories and he's doing it by treadmill and bike, right? By the stationary bike. So on the treadmill, he's losing 6 calories per minute. On the bike, he's losing 5 calories per minute. Now they're saying that T represents the number of minutes on the treadmill, and B represents the number of minutes on the bike. So they're saying how much does he lose by just doing the bike? So if in every minute he's losing 5 calories, right? So in B minutes he'll lose 5 B calories. So our answer choice is something that has 5B, which is answer 2. Alright, August 2017, question 3. So we've been given an equation 5/6 times 3/8 minus x is equal to 16. Now there are various ways to do it. What I did was, because this is multiplying and I know SAD map, right, was the opposite of multiply, divide. So I divided both sides by 5/6. So this cancels. So now I've got 3/8 minus x is equal to 16 divided by 5/6, which simplifies to 96/5, right? And then let's subtract 3/8 on both sides. So this cancels. What's 96/5 minus 3/8? We can simplify it, and we can either use fractions. It's up to you, however you want to do it. The answer is in decimals, so I'm going to put the decimal value. This is what I get. Then let's multiply or divide -1 on both sides. So I end up getting -18.825. Answer 2. Alright, so this is August 2017. Question 4. So they're saying that the teacher is deducting 10 points for every late reporting, right? So what type of sequence do we see here? Something's going down consistently. Is it linear, quadratic, exponential growth, exponential decay? What do you think? It's linear. Because if we were to draw a graph, this would be our graph. So from 100 it's going to 90. So it's going down consistently. What shape are we forming? A straight line, right? So it's a linear solution. Therefore, answer choice 1. Okay, question 5 of August 2017. So we've got Ebola and SARS. Now Ebola is starting off with 1 case. SARS is starting off with 30. Now they're saying that every day the rate is increasing by 1%, right? Sorry, every day it's increasing at different percentages. So for Ebola it's increasing at 11%. Right? So this actually becomes 1 times 1.11, right? After the second day, and then so on. For this it would be 30 plus 30 times 4%. So it becomes 30 times 1.04, right? Now if we look at the formula, this is what we get for Ebola, and we get this for SARS. Because each time we'll end up multiplying 1.04 to the previous value. Now we have to solve it for day number 10 and day number 53. So let's plug in these values. So 1 parentheses 1.11 to the power 10, and then for 53 and we'll get different values. And for SARS, we'll get 1.24 T. Let's put in the value as 10, and then over here we've got 1.24 to the power 53. So let's equate these. What do we get? So 1 times 1.11 to the power 10 is 2.839 approximately. And for 30 times 1.04 to the power 10 is 44.4. So this value for SARS is greater, right? So SARS is greater than Ebola. Now let's try it for 53. So if I solve for 53, I end up getting 252.41, and I end up getting 239.92. So in this case, Ebola is greater. So look for this choice. So day 10, SARS is greater than Ebola, and day 53, Ebola is greater than SARS. Look for this answer choice. So whichever one describes this will be our solution. Answer 3. Alright, Jan 2018, question 1. Again, an equation. We distribute, we do all those steps to solve. So 2/3 times 1/4 x minus 2 is equal to 1/5 4/3 x minus 1. So distribute, 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 distribute. And there are various ways you can employ any one of them. Either you can divide, or it's up to you. So I'm going to use the distributive method. So if I multiply, I get 1/6 x minus 4/3 is equal to 4/15 x minus 1/5. And then after this step, I can start getting rid of things using SADMAP, right? So I see a subtraction. Let's add 4/3 on both sides. And then I'm going to get rid of the x to this value, so I'm going to subtract 4/15 x. And you can do multiple things at the same time if you want. It's up to you. You can do it one step at a time, or you can do multiple steps at a time. So this cancels, and this cancels. So we end up getting, let's simplify this. So we get negative 3x over 30, which is negative 1/10 x. And on this side we get 17 over 15, right? So we can simplify this. So let's multiply 10 on both sides. So what do we get? Negative x or x is equal to negative 11.3333. They've given us this as our solution. So it's answer choice 4. So anything that connects, right? You can work it as fractions, you can work it as decimals. As long as you get to the answer, that's what we are looking for. You can also plug in these values in place of x and solve. That some kids use that. So they'll take every answer choice and plug it in. That might be a little lengthy for you because the equations seem a little tricky. But as long as you get an answer, I don't mind whatever method you end up using. Alright, June 2018, question 1. Now Mike is getting paid this way, so the pay rate is, this is how he's getting paid. 250A plus 290. He's selling cell phone accessories. right? And these are A. So the more he sells, he'll make more money, right? So A will determine how much money he's going to end up getting. Now they're asking you, what is the constant term? What if he sells 0? Can A be anything from 0 to 1 to 2 to 10 to 100? So this is varying, right? This is variable. This is not constant. This is changing. A is changing. So what is constant? So the constant term equals 290, right? Now they are asking you, what is the constant term? What is it? What does it mean? What does it represent? So A is what controls the accessories, right? Because that's what it's representing. A is representing the accessories. So answer choices 3 and 4. Let's compare them. Now 3 says that the amount guaranteed per week. And 4 says that after selling A accessories. But the 290, don't you think it's not dependent on A? There's no A with the 290, so 290 it's not affected by the value of A. So answer choice 4 is wrong. Right? So what are we left with? Answer choice 3. Boom. Answer 3. Okay? Alright, so June 2018. Question 2. So another equation. See how frequent these things come. And then the complexity of the equation even becomes more intense as you go along. So, distribute, right? So we end up getting 6 minus 2/3 x minus 10/3 is equal to 4x. And then we can move stuff around. So let's get rid of the x's on this side, so that we have all the x's on one side. So this cancels. We've got 6 minus 10/3, which we can plug in our calculator and get 8/3. And on this side we've got 14/3 x. And then use SADMAP. We are already using SADMAP, you must have used it. So you can use multiply converting to division. So divide both sides by 14/3. So our final answer will be x is equal to 4/7. There you go. Alright, August 2018. Question 1. So again, we have an equation. And let's distribute. So negative 2 times 1 is negative 2. Negative 2 times negative 4x is 8x. And we've got 3x plus 8, right? Then we can get rid of things. Let's subtract 3x on both sides, and let's add this 2 on both sides. So this will become 0, this will become 0. Here we get a 5x and we get 10. And then let's divide 5 on both sides. So we end up getting x as 2. Answer choice 2. So August 2018, question 2. So now this is a dog shelter. Each day they're spending $2.40 on food, right? Every day. So this is our expenses. And then they're saying the total expenses are EX is equal to 30 plus 2.40x. So this is your food cost, right? This is your total expenses. So when you run a facility, you're obviously, let's say, paying for food, but you're also paying for non-food, right? That will also be part of your expenses. So let's see what all this represents. So X represents the number of dogs, and 30 represents the non-food, and X is number of dogs. So look for this. 1 is the number of dogs, and 4 is non-food expenses. So our answer choices are 1 and 4, which solves to answer 2. Alright, so this is August 2018, question 3. So what all do we have here? So we know that a car was purchased for $25,000, and each year the price is going down by 18.5%. So that means what's 100 minus 18.5%? That is 81.5% is remaining, right? So net value will be 81.5%. So basically what we can do, and this is a method that you could use every time. So whenever you have depreciation, your net value is equal to the initial value times 1 minus the percentage given to the exponent t. And for appreciation, if your value is increasing, it's the same formula, the only difference is the subtraction becomes an addition, right? So let's write that formula, right? So what do we get? Net value is equal to initial value 1 plus percentage given to the exponent t. Now we are using the depreciation method, so let's use this formula. And let's plug it in. Let's see. So what's our net value every time? It's the initial value, which is 25,000, times 1 minus the percentage that is given, which is 18.5%, to the exponent t, right? So we end up getting 25,000, 1 minus 18.5% becomes 0.815. So I'll just put in the 0.815 right here. 0.815 to the power t. Now this is Vt. So this is our formula that we will be applying. So let's plug in 3 and then 4 for our time. And we get a value which is 13,533 and 5, right? And then we solve for V4, so we get 25,000, 0.815 exponent 4, and you get $11,029.9. Now we want to find the difference, so let's find V3 minus V4, subtract this amount and this amount. So we get 13,533.5 minus 11,029.9, and we end up getting 2503.6 as our answer. Alright, we'll work with June 2019 question 1. So what all do we have? Again, it's an equation. can use SAD map to our advantage. We see this value is multiplying. So let's divide both sides by 3/5. So this cancels, right? So we end up getting x plus 4/3 is equal to 1.7333, right? Then we see a subtraction. What's the opposite? Sorry, we see an addition. Let's get this out. So we see an addition, right? What's the opposite? Subtraction. So let's subtract 4/3 from both sides. So what do we get? X is 0.4. So answer choice 2. So this is a question, Jan 2019, question 2. So this is a question about appreciation. If you watched the video about depreciation, then our net value for appreciation is equal to initial value times 1 plus percentage given exponent t. This is what we're looking for, right? So let's look for the net value. What's the initial value that's given to you? 450. And then we'll do 1 plus our percentage that is given, 2.5 over 100 exponent t. Now we work with the parentheses, we'll get 1.025 exponent t, right? And we want to find out V20. So let's plug in 20 over here. Exponent 20, so we get $737.38. Right? So they're asking you, does the value double in 20 years? What should our answer be? We should say no. The value does not double in 20 years. Okay? So that's our solution. Remember this thing, appreciation and depreciation. Appreciation will be added, depreciation will be subtracted. So remember this formula, it comes in handy. Now we have June 2019 question 1. Let's solve that. Now they've given us two things, right? They've told us Nikki's age is X. And they've told us Nikki's sister's age. Nikki's sister's age is 7 years less than twice Nikki's age. Right? So we've got some information. Now remember keywords is equal. So we have Nikki's sister's age is equal to 7 less than. What does less than represent? Less than is subtraction, right? So then we have another keyword, twice. What does twice represent? 2 times Nikki's age, and Nikki's age is A, right? So remember this thing that I told you with subtraction. Whatever follows the subtraction will lead the question. So this is our first part, and we'll subtract the 7 after it. So we get 2A minus 7. Now this is the sister's age. Now the question is saying that Nikki's age plus the sister's age is 41. So Nikki's age is A, sister's age is 2A minus 7, and total is 41. So answer choice 2. So we have another equation. in this one. June 2019 question 2. So negative 2/3 parentheses x plus 12 plus 2/3 x is equal to negative 5/4 x plus 2. So this is our equation. Let's distribute, right? So we get negative 2/3 x minus 8 plus 2/3 x is equal to negative 5/4 x plus 2. And then we see the negative 2/3 x and positive 2/3 x. We can cancel those. They're equal and opposite. And then we can subtract 2 on both sides. So this will cancel. So we've got a negative 10 and negative 5/4 x. And then we can divide negative 5/4 on both sides. This will cancel. So our x value solves to 8. Alright, now we have August 2019, right? Another equation. And again, sad map. We can do it anyway, it's up to us. We see some divisions, we can multiply. We see some fractions, right? So I'm going to get rid of the 15 because I want x, right? So let's do this. This and this cancels, so you've got x plus 10. And here you've got 5 times 4, which is a 20. Then let's subtract 10 on both sides. So this cancels. So we get x as 10, which is answer choice 3.